It's 10:42 p.m. and the house is finally quiet. That heavy suburban quiet where the dishwasher hums in the background and my wife's laptop keys keep clicking from the other end of the sofa. We're sitting under the soft glow of the kitchen pendant light, the one we spent 3 weekends choosing because it felt like proof that we'd figured things out. The kids' soccer cleats are lined up by the door, the fridge covered in color-coded calendars and reminder notes. And on paper, everything looks right. 2 degrees, 2 careers, 2 steady paychecks. There's a quiet pride in that, because having 2 incomes was always supposed to mean safety. It meant we weren't the kind of family that struggled. I was scrolling on my phone, half asleep, when a short email popped up from the daycare about a minor tuition adjustment starting next week, and something in my chest tightened. I didn't get angry. I didn't even move. I just stared at the number, then glanced at our shared calendar. Tomorrow, already packed, wall to wall with meetings and deadlines. No white space, anywhere. And that's when it hits you. You start running the math without meaning to. If one of us stayed home tomorrow with a sick kid, something would break. If one of us decided this pace wasn't sustainable, the whole structure wouldn't bend. It would collapse. We bought the life that 2 incomes made possible. And now that life is the exact reason we can't afford to lose either one. My name is Jim, and I've been sitting here longer than I want to admit, staring at a blinking cursor, feeling a strange, quiet shame I can't quite name. Because this isn't what I thought it would feel like. I thought having more would make the world feel wider, more open. But instead, it feels like the walls have moved closer. Like we're doing everything right, and somehow, no one is breathing. We always believed the second income was the thing that would set us free. But tonight, looking at my sleeping house, I'm starting to wonder if it's actually the thing that locked the door. I've realized lately that this isn't actually a story about not having enough money, but there's a specific kind of weight that comes with being fine in this particular way. It's the feeling of living inside a machine where every gear is tuned to its absolute limit. There is no slack in the cable. When I talk to our friends at backyard barbecues, or while waiting for the kids to finish practice, I see the same look in their eyes. We're all smiling. We're all grateful, but we're all perpetually rushed. We're all one flat tire, one stomach flu, or one minor tuition adjustment away from the entire week descending into absolute chaos. We've built a life that requires 100% of our capacity, 100% of the time, just to keep the lights on. It's a structure with no elasticity, no margin for error, no room to just stop. And the strangest part, we never even questioned it. In fact, there's a quiet, unspoken assumption we've all agreed to, that having 2 people working is the only way to be a building, responsible adult in the 21st century. It's more than just a financial choice. It's our identity. It's the default setting for a modern family. When you tell someone both of you work, they nod. It makes sense. It's safe. It's what productive people do. But if you mention, even as a passing thought, that maybe one of you could step back, the room goes a little quiet. There's this subtle shift in the air, a look that says, you're being risky or naive, like you're voluntarily choosing to fall behind. We view the 2-income household as the ultimate safety net, the fortress that protects us from the volatility of the world. If one person loses a job, we have the other. That's the logic. It's common sense. It's what I believed for a decade, without ever once looking under the hood. This is where things get uncomfortable. Because we didn't just add a second paycheck to our old life and save the difference. We used that second paycheck to buy a life that demands a second paycheck. We traded our flexibility for a better zip code, a shorter commute, and better opportunities, not realizing that flexibility was the only thing that actually felt like freedom. No one forced us. There's no villain in this story. We just followed the path that everyone said was the most secure. And then it hits you. We're working twice as hard, but the floor feels twice as far away. I started to realize that the first thing we lost wasn't actually money. It was something much harder to quantify. I call it the slack. In the old world, the one our parents or grandparents lived in, there was usually one person whose primary job was to be the shock absorber for life. If a kid woke up with a fever or the water heater burst, or the car wouldn't start, there was a designated human being with the time and the mental space to absorb that blow. The system had a built-in buffer, but in our house, we've optimized the buffer out of existence. 2 careers don't actually double your capacity to handle life. They double your points of failure. Now, a sick kid isn't just a health issue. It's a high-stakes negotiation. It's a 7 a.m. conversation over cold coffee, looking at 2 calendars, trying to figure out whose meeting is, quote, less important, or who can afford to lose a day of political capital at the office. And here's the part nobody tells you. The part I finally had to sit down and look at on a yellow legal pad one night when I couldn't sleep. That second paycheck, it's a beautiful number when it hits the bank account. It looks like a mountain of extra breathing room. But when you look closer, you realize that a massive chunk of that second income arrives already pre-spent. It's not just the taxes. It's the $2,000 a month for the high-end daycare we need because we both work late. It's the second car payment, the extra insurance, and the gas for the commute. It's the convenience spending, the $15 salads because we're too tired to pack a lunch, the grocery delivery because we don't have 2 hours on a Sunday, the lawn service because Saturday is the only time we have to actually see our kids. We are paying for solutions to problems created by the fact that we both work. I'm looking at the math, and it's quietly exhausting. We took on more stress, more meetings, and more risk to earn that second income. But by the time we pay for the lifestyle required to sustain 2 careers, the extra money is mostly gone. We're running twice as fast just to stay in the exact same place. This is where things get uncomfortable. We're not failing. We're doing exactly what we were told would make us secure. But I'm looking at my wife, still typing away at 11 p.m., and I'm wondering, if we're making so much more than the generation before us, why does it feel like we're the ones who can't afford to catch our breath? I've started thinking of our life less like a home and more like a high-performance engine. When you have one person working, the engine is simple. It's got fewer moving parts. But when you have 2, you've essentially bolted on a turbocharger and a second cooling system. Yes, the machine is faster. Yes, it produces more power. But the complexity tax is staggering. Every single morning is a feat of precision engineering. If the toddler refuses to put on shoes for 5 minutes, it's not just a minor delay. It's a cascading failure. It triggers a late drop-off, which leads to a missed meeting, which leads to a frantic apology email, which leads to working through dinner to catch up. We've optimized for more, but in doing so, we've created a life with 0 tolerance for being human. We've built a household where every person has to be a perfect cog every single day, or the whole thing starts to smoke. And then I think about my neighbor, or maybe just an older version of who I thought I'd be. I see families who, for one reason or another, are living on just one income. On the surface, I used to feel a bit of pity for them. I'd see their older car, or the fact that they aren't renovating the kitchen trademark this year. And I'd think, man, they must be tight. They must feel so limited. But lately, I've been watching them from my kitchen window while I'm on my 3rd conference call of the day, the afternoon. I see them take a walk at 2 p.m. just because it's sunny. I see them handle a school closure with a shrug instead of a panic attack. They have less power in their engine, sure. They have less money hitting the account on Friday. But they have something that my 2-income household has completely traded away. They have the ability to absorb life. It feels wrong to say it. It feels like I'm betraying the modern dream we all signed up for. But the math of our 2-income life has a hidden denominator that we never talk about. We have double the money, but we have 10 times the coordination stress. We have the safety of 2 paychecks, but the fragility of a system that breaks if a single person gets a migraine. I'm starting to realize that the person with the most freedom isn't the one with the highest household income. It's the one who has the fewest things that must go right in order for their day to be okay. This is where things get uncomfortable. We always thought we were building a fortress, but as I sit here in the quiet of a house that cost us everything we have to give, I have to ask, what good is a fortress if you're too exhausted to ever step outside the gates? It says we're relevant. It says we're contributing. It says we're playing the game at the highest level. There's this unspoken pressure that if one of us were to step back, we wouldn't just be losing a paycheck. we'd be losing our seat at the table. I hear it in the way people talk at dinner parties. The subtle, high-pitched anxiety when someone mentions a friend who quit to stay home. There's always a comment about wasting the degree or taking a massive risk, even when the math shows that the second income is being almost entirely swallowed by the costs of earning it. We cling to it because in our world, busyness is a proxy for value. If you aren't exhausted, are you even trying? And then it hits you. We didn't just choose this lifestyle. We calibrated our entire existence to it. We took that second income and we baked it into the foundation of our lives. We didn't keep it on the side as a luxury. We used it to qualify for the mortgage on the house with the good school district. We used it to sign up for the year-round travel sports and the premium subscriptions. We turned a variable into a constant. And that's when the golden handcuffs click shut. This is the part nobody tells you. When your fixed costs rise to meet your maximum possible income, you haven't built a life. You've built a cage. I'm sitting here looking at the blinking cursor of my work email, and I realize I don't have an exit strategy. I can't just take a break. I can't decide to pursue a passion that pays less. I can't even afford to be mediocre at my job for 6 months. We bought the bigger life because we thought it would give us more options. But the reality is, the more we earn, the fewer choices we actually have. We've removed every exit option in exchange for a slightly nicer view of the parking lot. My name is Jim, and I spent years thinking I was climbing a ladder toward freedom. But as I look at the 2 laptops glowing in the dark of my kitchen, I realize we've just been building a wall, one paycheck at a time. And we're the ones on the inside. I'm starting to realize that I've been measuring the wrong thing for a long time. I used to think that the goal was to maximize the height of the mountain, to see how much we could accumulate, how much we could earn, how many titles we could collect. I assumed that the higher we climbed, the safer we'd be. But standing up here, the air feels thin, and the ground feels incredibly far away. I don't think the goal was ever supposed to be about the maximum possible income. I'm starting to question the wisdom of a life built on maximums. We've maximized our earnings, our spending, and our scheduling. But in the process, we've minimized our resilience. We've traded away our ability to be surprised by life, to be spontaneous, or to simply handle a Tuesday without feeling like we're on the verge of a breakdown. The mistake was assuming that security is something you buy with a larger paycheck. But if that paycheck requires a lifestyle that eats every cent and every second you have, it's not security. It's a high wire act. Maybe the real measure of a life isn't how much is coming in at the top of the funnel. Maybe it's something much quieter. I'm beginning to look at our life not through the lens of growth, but through the lens of fragility. I'm starting to ask myself, how much of this could be taken away before the whole thing falls apart? And more importantly, how much of this would I willingly give up just to have a Wednesday afternoon where I didn't feel like I was running out of time? I don't have the answers yet. I'm still sitting in the same kitchen, under the same pendant light, with the same stack of bills on the counter. But I'm looking at them differently now. I'm realizing that we've been playing a game where the only way to win is to keep adding more complexity. But what if the real win is found in the things you can afford to lose? What if the real measure of security isn't how much comes in, but how easily your life can bend without breaking? I'm still sitting here. The laptop is still closed, a dark rectangle on the granite countertop. The house hasn't changed. The laundry is still in the dryer. The mortgage is still the same number it was an hour ago. And the silence is still heavy. Nothing dramatic has happened. No one lost a job tonight. No one got a scary diagnosis. It's just a small, quiet realization that feels incredibly heavy. I realize that the problem isn't the daycare bill. It's not even about whether we have enough money in the bank to cover next month. The problem is that every single choice we've made for the last 5 years was built on a single, invisible assumption that both of us will always be running at full speed. We didn't build a life with a slow gear. We don't have a setting for simpler that doesn't immediately feel like danger. 2 incomes used to be our symbol of safety. It was the proof that we were protected. But somewhere along the way, it shifted. It stopped being a luxury and became a requirement. It's the oxygen our lifestyle needs just to keep its heart beating. I don't think we noticed when the trade happened. I'm not saying we made a mistake. I'm not saying we were reckless. We didn't blow money on things we didn't need. We bought the things we were told were the markers of a good life. But we traded away something invisible in the process. We didn't lose money. We lost the slack. We lost the ability to choose to stop without the whole structure screaming in protest. I look at my wife sleeping down the hall, and I don't feel resentment. I don't blame the world, or the system, or the way things are. There are no villains here. There are no heroes either. Just two people making perfectly rational, logical decisions, one after another, until we looked up and realized there were no exits left. The two-income life isn't inherently bad, but a life that depends on two incomes? That is a very fragile thing. I don't have a map out of this. I'm not here to tell you to sell your house or quit your job. I'm just an observer, trying to understand why more feels so much like less. But I have been asking myself one question tonight, and I can't seem to shake it. If one income disappeared tomorrow, not forever, just for a month, or even a week, what in your life would actually break? Would it be the bank account? Or would it be the schedule? Or would it be that fragile sense of control we work so hard to maintain? I'm starting to see that there are people in this world who aren't poor in dollars, but they are desperately poor in margin. They have everything except the ability to let go. I'm going to go to bed now. I'll close my laptop, and the kitchen light will stay on for a minute before I hit the switch. The house will remain quiet. Everything looks exactly the same as it did when I sat down. I used to think freedom was about making more. Now I'm not so sure it isn't about needing less.